It's the things that cause us the most grief that actually elevate us to places that we never imagined we'd be. We don't want to go through any grief-related event that we've dealt with. But the reality is, grief is tantamount to growth. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm here with an incredible special guest, Miss Analee Vinyard. And she has been able to do a magnificent thing by, unfortunately, having a grief circumstance that she's been able to transform and use to her advantage. Again, welcome back to another episode of the Grief Empowerment Theory. As you know, that's exactly what we do here. We speak to people who have taken the challenges and the difficulties in life that they've gone through, and they have utilized it. They've transformed that negative energy to turn it into growth and momentum to move forward. So, Analee, would you do me a favor and please just simply talk to the audience and tell them about yourself a little bit?
Well, yes. Thank you, first of all, having me here this morning with you to share my story and to empower ladies. My story, my name, Analee Vinyard, or Analee Vinyard is fine. I actually had to go through so many things at a very young age. Definitely, it was not me, the one that was able to overcome all that. But knowing that I'm a believer, and that was the way that I was able to overcome all these things because of my mother. She taught me the love for Christ at a very young age. Losing her at close to 15, everything after that became a mess. A lot of abuse. I ended up living with my grandparents on my mother's side that were very controlling, manipulative, and it was all about them and keeping control of my mother's assets, what she had. She left a property, she left money, she left life insurance, a personal jewelry and all. But the sad part is that as I'm living with them, I end up seeing the opposite of what I was raised in: love and care, protection. It became so much mess. And after that, they actually had an arranged marriage for me that I did not ask for because of money. I was not willing to sell my mother's home, her property, because she left that property for my brothers and for myself. She passes away due to placenta previa, complications of that. Back in 88, there was not really much help for that. So she literally bled to death and all her organs started shutting down. We just had a matter of hours to say goodbye to her. After that, in living in an arranged marriage, they realized that I was not going to sell my mom's property because I wanted that for my brothers. And I knew that if they sold it, they were going to keep the money. We would never see the money. And for me, it was not about the money. It was about making sure I took care of my mother's legacy, making sure my brothers were taken care of. So it became a mess. I ended up in that marriage that, thank the Lord, that a friend of mine, after figuring out that there was something very off, she said, "It is not where you're supposed to stay." Being Hispanic in our culture, we are very much told that we have to stay in a relationship no matter what happens, because the secrecy, making sure everyone thinks that everything is flowing well. Honestly, that is not about flowing well or about pretending. It was not healthy for my kids, and it was not healthy for me to be in that environment. I had a very hard time becoming pregnant. I was between life and death several times in my life. I ended up with a gallbladder, a complication, which I didn't want to have surgery for that. I ended up losing my first unborn child at 5 months out of the country in the same hospital where my mother started her deathbed. It was a lot that I went through, more than what I could actually deal with. I have to be honest about it. Some people say that God sends you what you could actually handle. I truly think that God sent me more that I could actually handle. But I think that him carrying me along and him holding me, that's how I was able to make it. That's how I was able to come from this dark place to the light. Many years were taken away from me from finishing my degree, which I already have a degree in languages now. My life completely changed. I'm also an author, a speaker, a Christian life coach. I've been doing so many things. I've written already 6 books, 3 in English, 3 in Spanish, and I'm right now finishing up another book, the continuation of the legacy of love.
Okay.
But it's been obviously baby steps, which I mentioned in my book. It did not happen overnight. I needed to realize that it was okay not to be okay. It was okay to tell myself every day, I'm not the only one that's dealing with this, but I had to go and take therapy. I had to go and get the help that I needed. I had to come to a place of a true connection and true. I'm not going to say I did not have a relationship with Christ, but I was willing to just surrender my life to Christ. That's the right way to say it. And say, Lord, this is who I am. I'm broken, which we're all broken. Lord, we all have all these, flaws, but Lord, I'm your daughter and I need you to help me. I've lost my mother. I've lost my unborn child, which, by the way, I never got to see my child. So it was because of the hospital uh, being neglectful and giving me an assistant that was not even a doctor that caused me to start bleeding, which I could have also died. Honestly, I really didn't want to continue living without my child, losing my mother in an arranged marriage. It was a complete mess. But knowing that God was so, and He always is faithful, graceful, loving, I got to experience His tender love in the worst moments of my life. And I could say that I'm here thanks to the Lord, and I'm very thankful every day.
You know what? What is great about that is that you have taken, again, that challenges you've been through, and you figured out a way to be able to, move forward. Allow me to ask you this. What what made you make that final decision to say, I can no longer be in this marriage. I have to go forward. There's something better out there for me, and this is not it. What made you, or, when did you finally decide that that was time?
Well, it did not happen overnight, because I'm very, I would say maybe it sounds kind of funny, but I'm very traditional, very old fashioned. I like to try as much as I possibly can to keep a marriage. But when I realized this marriage is not based uh, on the way the Lord wants it to be based, um, it's not up to me to be carrying this kind of a burden. It was a complete burden for me because I was devoting and giving my life to someone that I was not in love with. And I felt, of course, I cared about him. It hurt. I hurt for him. I learned to love him in a way or care about him, but it's not love. So I was willing to share with my mom's very good friend back in the day what I was going through. Eventually, I did speak up. And when she found out, she was they married me in the Catholic Church. I come from a background of Catholicism, which I'm now a Christian believer. And that's a big step being Hispanic. Normally, Hispanics stay in the Catholicism. So I went and I talked to her and I told her what happened. And she said, Analee, you should have spoken. I'm so sorry what you're going through, but I'm sending you to talk to, the Catholic father, and that's how they call him, padre. Sit down and talk to him and share. I'm going to talk to him what you went through, and I've been working there for, I don't know, she was working there for all her life, 30, 40 years, and she said, I want you to talk to him and tell him. I did. And when he heard my situation, he definitely felt touched. And he said, I married you not knowing what you were carrying. And this is not a marriage. We will help you to do the steps that need to be taken because you have two options: stay in that marriage where your mother in law will take over your marriage, which she always did. Uh, this husband that you have that has not grown, he has not matured. It was not based the way it should be based, your marriage. So you have several routes here, but honestly, this cannot continue. You have to come to a place that you realize that this is not a marriage. So it took me a while after I talked to him. I ended up at the time they left me in Mexico. I lived there for uh, 10 years, I would say. I end up coming to the United States. I eventually end up coming back home, and I asked for a divorce. And he said, well, we have to continue. We have a son together. And I said, I can't continue. I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. I never went into details. I was very careful. I was not willing to hurt his feelings because that's not who I am. I carried my pain on my own. That was very hard because I didn't want him to be hurt, even though my grandparents had caused me so much pain and hurt. I was not willing to expose the sad shame that I had to carry in silence. My mother had to as well because they did the same thing to her parents. So my grandparents did that as well.
That that is a major difficulty because, as you said, you are internalizing everything, and the frustration is the fact that you, for some reason, you're the one that feels guilty about a situation that you were not, you know, you weren't the person that caused it. You were the reciprocant of the circumstance. When you work with other young ladies, because I understand that you are a life coach that specializes
Mhm.
in helping young women who are in relationship issues and want to leave. You help them to be able to formulate a plan. What are some of the things that you do to help them get the strength that you got?
Well, first of all, I always want to start with a prayer. And I ask and I start with a prayer because I want God to come in. I am a tool in the hands of the great I am, in the hands of Almighty God that could actually help me and see things. Actually, I could share with you that last week I stepped in with a lady and I chat with her regarding all this, and we prayed. And as we were praying, I shared with her, um, I'm here to help you, to guide you. I cannot be your Christian life coach and also be your friend. You have gone through so many things related to the things that I have gone through. The first thing that they say to me is, how did you do it? I want to know your story. I have actually, I've gifted a lot of my books called A Legacy of Love. So what I do, and also a workbook that goes and ties with 12 chapters related. This is my workbook, also A Legacy of Love, with my book that tie in uh, different topics like how to forgive when you're still hurt, um, how to pray when you really don't feel like praying. So it's so many topics related to the same subject. How to forgive those that have hurt you. Um, what I told her, I said after we prayed, we sat there. She wanted to know my story. I shared very quickly about my story, and then I just shared that, and immediately, I could see in her eyes. She told me these words. She said, when you came in, and because she works for a little restaurant, for, well, not a little chain of restaurants called Subway, which we all know.
Right.
And I stepped in to grab my sandwich, and she said, "You know what? I don't know why, but I felt connected with you. I felt that I needed to talk to you. I didn't know her. I didn't have a clue what she had gone through. And she said, "I've gone through a lot of abuse. You definitely understand my abuse, my children, the way that he was so he would very neglectful, and we would spend a lot of time lonely and with all these bills, and he would put me down. He would hurt me in front of other people, in front of my own family, become physical." So I'm listening to all that, and definitely what happens is that I go back to what I went through, and I when I'm answering, I'm like, well, for you to take the next steps, first of all, I'm very proud that you're willing to listen. I'm very thankful that you're willing to move on. That is wonderful. That's the first step in order to receive all the healing that you need. A Christian coach is willing to work. I work with women that are already recognizing that there's been so many problems and they want to have a breakthrough. So I shared my breakthrough. I recognized that there was a problem. I cried out to the Lord. I started finding good resources, which I said my workbook and my book will definitely help you. You might not connect with everything that I've gone through, but with one thing that you are able to connect with me, we will see that breakthrough. You will feel comfortable. So I listened to her story. I was telling her, "Do you realize that this is a pattern also that you've carried? Do you realize that when we have that pattern, like I did my grandfather, I went in an arranged marriage, which his family and him were neglectful and in a way abusive. Do you see how there's a correlation? There's a connection. Then if you don't receive therapy, most likely you will end up in another vicious relationship.
The
So
cycle
a
continues.
cycle continues. So we had to go one by one, and she cried. She said that it was her best day ever. We did share lunch that day, and I said, "I cannot continue sharing lunch. This will be a professional scenario, and I cannot be your friend. I'm here to guide you, and if I see something that needs to be addressed, I'm going to address it for your own good, because I want you to be able to overcome all these obstacles." And she said, "Yes."
And you know what? It's interesting because I know that in the beginning, when you're having com- these confrontations with the young ladies you're working with, it's not to be negative, but sometimes you have to have some tough love with them because they're torn between, like you just said, they're torn between their family, they're torn between their tradition, they're torn between their personal feeling of, not wanting to feel like a failure because the marriage is failing. When none of these things are their fault at all. So when you have that conversation, I can see that sometimes you have to kind of tell them that it's not their fault, not this is not their responsibility, but then also you have to explain to them that they have to get strength,
Yes.
they have to become strong. If you stay submissive, you'll stay in the same, you said this earlier, you'll stay in the same cycle.
Yes.
you know uh Now, also, let me tell you, I went on your website and i I already want you to bake something for me. I already want you to do so. Allow me to ask, how does that tie in to your overall theme? Because the reason why I'm asking is because for me, cooking has been an extreme therapy for me. When I lost my wife, um, it made it difficult for me to kind of figure myself.
Yes.
And cooking happened to be an avenue. I was able to put my headphones on and concentrate on my food, things like that. Is that something that kind of started you, or you always had this incredible ability? I mean, I saw pies, I saw cakes, I saw I saw all the great stuff there, you know. So eh, talk a little bit about that, and how that's been able to help you to be able to manage forward, and what are some of the things that, is it a sign of what your organization is, or is it just something totally separate?
No, actually, all this comes with my mother. My mother loved the kitchen. My mom loved to cook and bake, and she was very talented. I just I'm somewhere there, but not as she was. But as a little girl, I would always sit on a stool. And because I was little, so I would want to spend time in the kitchen with my mother and watching her cook and bake everything Hispanic from scratch. Well, I wanted to be like her. I was always trying to model what she would put me to do. If we were making a flour tortillas, which everyone probably knows what a tortilla is, um, it's a dough, and she would extend the dough, flour, corn, and baking and cooking from uh, you're more common, probably you are more aware of flautas and tostadas and tortillas and caldo de res and all that. So my mother was very drawn to the kitchen, and that was one of her love languages. So when she passes away, I did go through a stage that I didn't want to hear from the kitchen. I was not thrilled about it because it would bring me bittersweet memories. But eventually I went back to the kitchen because I thought that if I would be as good or close to her cooking and baking, that somehow God would allow her, she would come back and spend a holiday with me. I'm being extremely honest about it. It's very painful to me for me to share that, but I was so close to her. So that was the way that, I would connect with my mother. So now, as things are going and with all this, my book actually won a prize. I will be in Phoenix, Arizona, because the impact that it has and the way that it was written. So, with that said, I share about my mother in the kitchen, time that we spend. And I think that that's the best way. It's very therapeutic for people that have gone through abuse, people that have gone through loss, people that have gone through arranged marriage, being trafficked, in other words, that you didn't pick or choose. They did that for you. That's horrible. I think that the kitchen is a scenario where you could actually find healing as well, besides the workbook. Why? Because you take away those thoughts, those things that you've gone through, and you try to find the healing, the restoration through a conversation, and let the ladies know that if they were in a bad relationship where they said their cooking wasn't good, which I went through, this is not good. You have to be better. They could actually learn these recipes, which I already have also a cookbook
Okay.
in both languages with its history added. How did that recipe come about? Is it French? Is it Spaniard? Is it German? Is it whatever it is? And they could actually grab these tools, and if they need to start their own place, their own business, well, now I know how to cook that. Now I know how to do that. And it's a different way to see it, therapeutic, also to heal as well, and also to become independent and be your own version, not to rely on a man. You could be your best version and grow with your skills. And if they've never had a legacy of love, they could adopt my legacy that my mother gave me. And these tools will definitely help them to inspire them to be their best version and not rely on a man. That's how I see it. Also, I started decorating for holidays, for Christmas peppermint bark and other that I also do, and that's growing as well, because I want them not to only think, oh, it has to be cooking. No, maybe your skills are to decorate. Maybe you're I'm trying to give them different alternatives so they can
Yes.
find the tools and figure out what they would like to do. And if God has allowed me to do these things for His glory, my desire is to empower ladies so they can also be their best version and to become independent. So that's why I've added this, because if God gave me those skills and those talents, why not share them with the people around me that they also need those kind of tools as well?
And that is an excellent attribution to be able to pass along to people you're working with, because a lot of the times it's very easy to say, you know, do this, do that, get away from your husband. But then, like you said, you know, a large portion of women that leave, there's a financial issue, and they don't feel that they can make up, or
Mhm.
they may have been housewives, or they may have not been able to be able to deal with the finances because the man in the house wouldn't allow them to, or whatever, what have you. And now, you know, they leave. They finally get the strength to leave, but yet they don't have a way. You show them that they can use whatever talents that they have. Again, it could be cooking. It could be, you know, you could be a person that learns to fix cars. It
Yes, yes,
whatever. And also on top of that, it adds to your self esteem.
yes,
You know,
yes.
because like you said earlier, when you talked about the food, somebody would tell you your food isn't good. That ends up reflect. You feel that that person's telling you the truth because again, they want to make you feel bad. Now you have a self-deprecating feeling about this whole thing. You know, but you're showing them that you know you developed a talent, you honed your skills after you know people told you that you didn't have the ability.
Hmm.
You did it, and it adds to your legacy of strength. I mean, I understand. Like you said, you went back to school. You are an interpreter. You have done so many things
Hmm.
in light of the fact that you were married off at, I believe, 18. Was that correct?
Yes, I was 18.
So you know, reestablishing yourself and giving yourself that strength to move forward, and now coming back and bringing others to do the same thing. That's why I absolutely commend you. I mean, seriously, Annalee, I have to allow. Let me ask you this: say the person that you're working with doesn't have such a strong belief in God the way you do. Maybe because they've been subject to so many circumstances and it's kind of broke them down. How do you encourage them to understand that it's the love of Christ that can help give you that strength to move forward? How do you have that conversation with them?
Well, I actually ended up having that with this lady, because she said that she pushed away from church because
Right.
it was not going well. They were not supportive. They were not willing to help her with the problems that she was facing at home with her husband, which he eventually left her. Um, and she said, I'm pretty much stunned how you have gone through so many things, but you have kept that area of your life intact. And I said, well, my mom planted the seed. So when your parents plant that seed, it is wonderful. It's such a blessing because you have that seed, you know about Christ. I said, back then I was not where I'm at right now because I went through so many things. I didn't have time really to be focusing on my growth in Christ. I had to focus on resolving all these challenges that, came to me. So with that said, I said, it was baby steps. And I mentioned that a lot in my book. You might not be where I'm at right now. That is perfectly fine. Maybe you're asleep. I find that a really good analogy. Some of us are asleep and some of us are already awake. I'm already fully awake. Well, if you're still asleep there, and if my story, and if I'm able to not overly do it in Christ, which I've never been that way. I'm just naturally, and I don't over press on it. I said, you will eventually be interested. You will eventually want to know more about Christ. I share my story, and I always mention I would not be here if it wasn't because of Christ.
Right.
So why don't you open your heart to the possibility that if you're not a believer, you don't think that God exists, well, talk to him and tell him, Dear Lord, could you help me so I could understand and know you and I could experience you in my life? Uh, Show me the way. Uh, Allow me to know that you do exist and that you want to have a relationship with me, that you love me. And I know that God will respond one way or the other. He will let you know through people, or you will have a dream, or he will find the way for you to know that that is actually something that he's sending for you to receive. So you might not be there. That is perfectly fine. But don't allow yourself that opportunity. Maybe it works. I said, just give him a chance. And if you give him a chance, I know that it will go well. I know that he will open that desire in your heart of growing in Christ, of learning. And even though you're asleep and you're going to wake up, you might wake up slowly. That's fine. But continue pressing on and doing having that relationship, growing, trying to know if God does exist. I said, and if you're a believer, but they've hurt you, know that we're living in a broken world. We don't belong to this world. We are just passing life. And we're going to find a lot of people that are not true to themselves, are not real believers. That is fine. Uh, that is not the church. We should be focused on the Lord, not the people, on Christ. And if he sent his only son to die on the cross for us and he overly loves us, there has not been a bigger love than that has done such a remarkable thing for us. So now that you see that, hear about that, learn, try to get your heart willing to be open to receive Christ. And I know that it will be well. That's what I've told them. And she received Christ. I told her, I said, let's pray together. And so God could come and restore, and for you and your family to be saved today. Because that's the first desire, that I would have for other people, for them to be saved, to make sure that their book is written in the book of life, and that their family as well. So she prayed with me. She received Christ. I know she's saved. That for me was priority number one.
Understood. That is absolutely admirable. People have to understand that you do need something to believe in,
Hmm.
and Christ is a great way to go about it. I mean, again, some people have different, people that they different entities that they gravitate to. That's that's on them. I'm personally, as long as you believe in something, and that's my thing. I'm just like yourself. I'm also Christian, so that's a whole different circumstance. I more or less want to talk about the fact that, you know what, there are so many, like you said, there's so many ladies who have been confused because they've been taken away from their circumstances. Like you said, the young lady that you are working with now, she had a background, a religious background, but um, she pulled away. Obviously, sometimes things like abuse and difficulties will make you second guess yourself and second guess all the things you've gone through, all the things that you've learned because you just don't feel that they're working. You know, I'm one thing I tell clients is that you have to understand that just because you don't see it happening right now doesn't mean it's not happening and it's not working. Sometimes this is the path you must walk,
Hmm.
and that path may come with learning to reconnect with things. Say it is religion, learning to reconnect, because that's helping you become a new version of yourself. Um, Talk a little bit about your your incredible success stories, the people that you've been able to help walk through this path, and you are just beaming when you see that you know they've gone from having a challenging circumstance where they were married to now they are thriving or on their way to thriving and doing some incredible things. Talk about how that makes you feel first off.
Well, most likely, I mean, it makes me feel complete. It makes me feel that what I'm doing is really worth my daily activities, the things that I'm doing for them. It definitely makes me feel encouraged and thankful to the Lord because, first of all, I was not really wanting to share my own story. Why? Because it was extremely painful and challenging. And I just didn't want to be vulnerable. But God did share with me that He was going to take me to share my own story and to bring people to Christ. So when I see ladies that come to me and they share, and they cry and they tell me what they're being challenged with, and they feel comfortable after they know that I share my story with them. I've gone to different organizations that help women that have been abused, women that are dealing with so many things in the same environment of abuse. They come up and they share because I've gone there and spent time, which I've actually even taken Mexican food that I've prepared and spent the time and letting them know a positive outcome in my own life that they could also experience themselves. So they've actually reached out during that time where I'm feeding them and I'm talking to them and giving them words of encouragement, and they've said, how were you able to go and finish a degree when you end up having kids and you have so many challenges and working and all? I said, as I say, it was baby steps. But if you are really wanting to receive and have your own degree, you will be willing to sacrifice and focus and be very organized. And if you don't have any kids, it makes it a lot easier. So, with that said, I've given them words of encouragement, words of how to do it, where to get started, how to apply, because there is a lot of help with the government. And I've been able to let them know. I said I had to do my hard work in figuring that out on my own. But now that you have these tools, it's up to you to continue that. Other ladies sharing about in the middle of all this, they've lost their child because of the husband getting involved and making them look like they were the problem. Um, that they're asking for prayer. They're praying and hoping that eventually they could have their children. So, what I've seen is a breakthrough of women willing to share, women that are willing to find restoration, women that are willing to figure out how did you get there? I want to know, I want to hear your story, and I want to also be part of something like that. So, I've shared the outcome and how to get there is it's okay to be in a dark place, but it's not okay to stay there. Um,
Right, right.
it's okay to go through these things because they're just life learning lessons. Don't allow someone that comes around your environment to put you down. Be very selective with your friends. Be willing to find other alternatives and people that are going to lift you up. Definitely take therapy. There's free therapy out there. So everything that has helped me, I've tried one way or the other to pour it into them and always encourage them and guide them through. What have I seen? I've seen ladies uh, empowered. I've seen ladies, because these kind of things take a while. It's not
Right.
something that I'm going to see them and the next time they're going to be booming. They're going to, oh, I've done it. No. That, like I said, in my life, it took baby steps. Most definitely, I would assume that it's going to also take a while for them to get where they have to get. But just seeing them, that they're positive, that they're encouraged, that they're willing to do the hard work, right there is already, like, I'm seeing a lot of change in them. I definitely could see that if they continue that path, they will actually reach their purpose and their goals and their dreams in life.
Well, it's it's clear that you have a great philosophy of helping someone move forward. And as we talked about earlier, sometimes, like you said, it has to be baby steps because when you are when you're leaving something you've been familiar with for say a few years now, and now you're being introduced to someone that's telling you, no, you can do things this way, but you have to think about this. And now you're also being told that you have a mind, you have the ability to think for yourself. You know, all these things are new. So I can definitely see why it has to be a baby step type of situation. You can't just dive in and have this expectation that everything is going to be as it is. And of course, also, you have to go through some challenging periods, some challenging times. God is not going to make an absolutely smooth path all the time. You're going to have to traverse some challenges. Plus, all those things that you overcome allow you to become a stronger person
Yes.
over time. Do you, when you work with your clients, do you also encourage them to know that they are vessels as well and that their story can also help someone else, just like your story helped them?
Most definitely. Let me share with you something that I don't think I've shared with you before. When I came out of all that and I saw the statistics of women that have gone through abuse and that a lot of them don't make it, and they don't make it because their spouses or their significant other um, ends their life, um, and that God actually covered me and protected me through my path, and that I was able to make it, even though I was described clearly, literally, how they were going to end my life. And it was horrendous because I have kids. And knowing that I had lost my mother, while the outcome did not sound, something I wanted, and for my children to go through such a horrendous thing, that's when I realized, Lord, I need to get myself out of this, and this is not going to end well. And through therapy, I realized that a lot of women don't make it. Um, so I talked to the Lord and I said, God, this is very difficult what I'm going through, but allow me to make it through, because my desire is, because of my kids, of course, but also because my desire is to go and become a chain with other survivors and help them so they could also come out of that. And my desire is to go and find the way with my time, with my energy, with food, and in different other ways for me to go and reach out to them and save them. and let them know that it is possible in Christ. So after I came out of that, and with this lady as well, after she heard my heart and I heard her heart, um, crying, she said, after when I'm well, I want to be part of your chain as well of bringing ladies out and saving them. We could all become a chain in Christ of healing and restoration. And and I said yes, because I just don't want or hear that there's more victims and more ladies, and even men as well. Men also have gone through things like that, that are being abused and that are being mistreated. I said, I want to be that chain, of course, with you all, of helping and of us bringing to Christ a lot of people that have been in these kind of circumstances. Yes.
Okay. Now, first off, I have to commend you. You've written 6 books. I, I'm look. I'm just barely getting through one right now. But in addition to that, talk to talk to the audience about how your book, Legacy of Love, how the workbook complements the book, and is that something you do with all of your books to make sure that somebody has some additional resource to be able to touch base on?
Well, it does with this of a legacy of love, most definitely. Then the cookbook, obviously, it complements what the desire of finding other alternatives for ladies to heal with their hands, and it also has pictures of my decoration, and for them all to also to think beyond the box. So, with that said, my book, it does have 12 chapters, and the 12 chapters of my book connect with my workbook. Why? Because the topics that are being exposed here are relatable with each one of the chapters. For example, praying even when you don't know how to pray, because there's a lot of people that say, well, maybe I have to word certain things because God maybe wants, high end vocabulary. No, no, and no. God just wants us to recognize that we have an identity in Him, not in our past, not in our circumstances, and that God is our Father, and that He wants us to talk to Him with very easy, plain words from our heart. That's what He wants us to do, to talk to Him from our heart. Forgiving even when you're still hurting, listening to the right voices over the wrong voices, trusting again when trust has been broken. Um, when you are going through all these battles, um, and I think it's very normal, and sometimes it's actually the enemy that is giving you bad voices, like saying, oh, you're never going to make it. Oh, things are never going to get better. You're not good enough. All this, you have to call it out and let those voices know, I know where you're coming from. I have an identity, and God is the one that has control. So you have to recognize that that is not from God. God is a God of love, and He will lift you up. He's not going to put you down. So hope when your hope has been dashed, finding God in your circumstances, maintaining happiness in the midst of the chaos or contentment, turning a generational curse into a generational blessing, which I felt that what my mom experienced and what I experienced was a generational curse that we didn't ask for. Some people think that it's not a generational curse, but personally, it did feel that way because they took a lot of my years, a lot of my life years that I could have focused on achieving so many things. But it is okay. They did the same thing to my mother, but she didn't actually make it through. So, is that hard for me? Yes, it is. It's painful, but I know that I'm here and I'm fulfilling all the things that she would have wanted for herself. So I feel that I'm fulfilling it for both of us. um, I try to always find something positive and not to
Right.
focus on all that negativity. Leaving a legacy of love, how to pray, how to read your Bible, how to grow in your faith. Because people tell me, how have you been able to grow in your faith when you've gone through all these challenges? You have a choice. You have a choice to allow all that to take over, you to allow and the Lord to come in and restore you and live by faith, not by sight. So yes, my book and my workbook are pretty much relatable. And my book, the same thing. It has
Okay.
very interesting topics related um, to each one of the chapters. It is not just something that I just threw out there. He heard my heart, memories of a beautiful flower, our world overturned. A young heart cannot absorb it, carrying the secret shame. Uh, Shattered dreams, broken spirit, my veil of secrecy, living in my secret shame, finding courage, secrets revealed, dreams restored. Say yes. Her legacy, my dreams. So it's my mother's legacy, but I'm fulfilling those dreams for both of us.
Okay. Analee, how can people get in touch with you? How can they be able to, purchase your books as a resource? Um, where are you doing speaking events? Do you do them online or do you go to locations? Please tell the audience how they can get in touch with you.
Well, they could get in touch with me even on my website, Analee Vinyard, ANALEEVINYRD.com. And they could also look me up on Instagram on author Analee Viscara, Vizcarra, Vineyard. And also, if they want to look me up on Facebook, which is the same thing, author Analee Viscara Vineyard. Um, and definitely I will respond to them. And events, I have a lot of events. I've been on a TV. I will actually be next week on Zondra here in Dallas, sharing more about my story and how I was able to overcome. So how do I get these invitations? I think that people just invite me and they reach out to me after they hear my story. Yesterday, as I've started with my own podcast as well, called A Legacy of Love. A very close friend of mine back in high school, he was touched because he didn't know about my story. He didn't know. I've been always very private of my own personal challenges. And he actually works in a correctional facility for women and for men, and he's actually the cook manager, and he is also involved in the city. So he has also another a position where he could actually invite me to participate. Well, yesterday he also invited me. He said, as soon as I finish reading your book, I would like to find a way to call you and you could participate in sharing your story, because a lot of ladies will see light. They ended up here in this place, but I don't think that this is the place for them to end. And I said, most definitely not. I believe that there is hope for them as well, and that God could also restore them fully, and they could thrive and they could be their best version. And so I've been getting invitations from here, from there, that I actually seek, or other ones that come to me. And I definitely know that this is because of Christ, that He is the one that's making the way. Um, and when they invite me, I don't just quickly say yes. I pray about it. I sit down and I meditate and I ask God, is this where you want me to go? Is this what you want me to, do for these people? So that's how everything comes together. I don't just go and rush and do it. I am invited and I will continue to be invited, but I always want to make sure that it is well with Christ.
Uh, Thank you very much for that because there's so many people that need to know that there's someone like you out there that can offer them the assistance that they need. Someone who has that practical, I've been there and I've done that type of philosophy. You know, therapy's great and you need therapy in a lot of situations. But in addition to therapy, having somebody who has the ability to empathize and
Yes.
has compassion based off of circumstance, that's always valuable. So I just want to say thank you so much again, Emily, for giving the audience an opportunity to understand that there is life after the perceptions of not being able to move forward. Learning, like you said earlier, learning not to listen to the voices, whether they're inside voices or outside voices,
Yes.
telling you that you're not worthy, fighting them, and realizing that each time you fight them successfully, you're giving yourself a little bit more strength to be able to navigate through whatever it is that you are addressing. So I just want to say thank you again because there are so many young ladies, and like you said, and young men out there that are just facing challenges, especially because we live in a day and time where I believe you said it earlier, tradition seems to trump feelings. And it's like, well, hey, you got married. This is what you're supposed to do. This is that. And although the other party may not be doing things the way they need to be doing things, you know, it's a challenge because like you said, you're fighting yourself. You don't want to believe that you're the reason why
Hmm.
things are not working to their advantage. But I love the fact that you will talk with them and let them know that no, this is not your fault. You do have a responsibility because you have to know that you have to walk away even though it may be challenging,
Hmm.
but it's not your fault.
No, it's not.
You're not to blame. So again, um do you have before I go, I want to ask, do you have any questions about me or about the show or anything of that nature? Or
No,
what
I don't. I would just say that thank you so much for having me in your program today, and I really am looking forward to see what else God is going to do. And for ladies that are listening here today, I would say that continue pushing, continue moving, continue pursuing your dreams. And whenever you hear those voices, call them out. And you could actually even put on some little post-its in your mirror. And every time you hear a negative word, whether it's from out or whether it's from inside, you hear those voices, go and replace it with a positive word. I'm worthy. I'm loved. Uh, God has a plan over my life. Everything that could change that a negativity that you hear from out or in, it's worth doing. And for me to end, I would love to share this also in my book. It says, I wrote a poem for my mother at the end of my book because she actually was the one that empowered me to do so many things. Of course, the Lord, which I share a lot in my book, but I wanted to let her know, even though she's not here, but she is with the Lord, how much she meant and she still means to me. So if you have someone that means so much to you, follow that legacy so you can see breakthrough as well. Try to remember those wonderful moments. And if you have them present, make sure that you continue pursuing that relationship. So I wrote, Beloved, my beloved, I love you and adore you forever, present in the depths of my being, with your long hair many times collected and some others naturally, but always with your fascinating beauty, filling with your aroma the atmosphere around me with that sweet perfume. Charming you, always knew what to say to me when I felt bad. You knew if I was sad just by looking at me. Beloved, my beloved, tenderness of angel, heavenly face, selfless feelings, purity of heart that represents only love, legacy so big and impossible to forget. Love so great, a legacy and impossible to forget you. Precious stone, admirable strength, transparency, queen of queens, heavenly gift. So that's what I see in my mother.
I tell Annalie, she is so proud of you, put it that way. And you are doing a great thing for not only her legacy, but your own, and you're bringing others to be able to address their circumstances. So,
Yes.
again, I want to commend you, ladies and gentlemen. I had a excellent guest today, Miss Analee Vinyard. She's done some amazing things. Her information will be in the show notes. So we'll make sure that, if you want to get in touch with her and find out a little bit more about what she can do to talk with you, or if you're in the area, if Emily, I forgot you're in the Dallas area. I'm actually in Dallas today, which is interesting, but that's a whole different thing. But we could have done this live, put it that way. But still, or not live, we could have done this in front of each other. That's a whole different thing. But again, I just wanted to say thank you so much, because it's just it's very interesting to know that there's someone like yourself out there that is helping other people. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what the grief empowerment theory is all about. It's understanding that you can find the you can find fuel within the challenges that will give you an incredible momentum that will allow you to do things that you never imagined that you could do. And then in the process, you're helping others to also realize that they can do the same. So until next week, I want to say thank you again. And like I always say, you got this, no matter what. Thank you
Yes.
again. Emily, I really appreciate everything that you're doing. And thank you for actually gracing my show today.
No, thank you. You have a wonderful day, and wonderful day for everyone that's listening today. And God bless. It is possible in Christ.
Have a good day, everyone. Thank you. Okay. Emily, again, thank you so much, because
Yes. Thank you.
you, you, I'm so impressed with everything. I mean, listen, I grew up. My mother, unfortunately, was placed in a rough situation as well, and and from there again, she she went from being a mother on welfare to a woman obtaining 2 degrees, becoming a minister, speaking around the world, doing all these different things. And again, and so that's why kind of today I was a little taken. I mean, I literally just came back from Tennessee. When you said something that really kind of touched me, like when your hero is is fading away, like you said in the case of your mother, in the case of my mother, when your heroes fade away, gathering that strength. You know, I've been having to, like I said, reach out to or I say, go back into my memories and remember all those great times. Remember all those times where she was an absolute pillar of strength, and kind of go from there, and realize that she left an incredible she's leaving an incredible legacy with me
Yes.
and
Yes.
my family,
Yes.
kind of going from
Yes.
there. But like I said, Annalie, what I'm gonna end up doing is I'm gonna do some editing, and I will definitely send you a copy of this information and
Yes.
kind of go from there. But yeah, yeah, it's great. I'm literally in Dallas right now, and I would have invited you to lunch. A friend of mine who is doing a conference out in Connecticut
Uh huh.
happens to be in Dallas today, and
Oh,
she was like hey, let's just do lunch, So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna have lunch with her, and we're gonna go from there. Do what we need to do, but in the meantime, I mean, either way, thank you for it. I mean, this was an awesome interview. You have an awesome story, and you are doing something incredible to help people move forward. So thank you for that, Emily. Seriously, thank you for that.
No, no, thank you. Honestly, thank you for having me. And it's such an honor and a privilege to be able to support this desire of helping people heal. And I would definitely want to see the video when you have it ready, because I also
Yeah.
continue growing my social media and all the what I'm doing. And yes, it would mean a lot to me to have this video as well, because I feel that it went pretty well. Um, and I'm the kind that I'm more old fashioned, so I like old school. I like to have my questions, but overall, I mean, it went pretty well. Um, yes.
Okay. You know what? First off, give me a couple of days. I definitely this will be done. I'm also going to do like a couple of 1 minute clips so you could do send out on social media too. You know, clips of us talking, of us engaging, and things like that. Um,
Mhm.
you know, I kind I tell you, I got away from the question format because I figure more of a free flowing format
Uh-huh.
allows this is a live stream, so this is not like a pre-recorded circumstance.
Hmm.
You know, you want
Yes.
people to understand that this is a coming off the cuff type of thing. You know, I hope that the questions I did ask were appropriate enough to help solicit conversation, help bring conversation forward. That's my goal. And so hopefully that was it. And I'll tell you something, you were absolutely masterful in answering anything. So I appreciate that part. You were one of those easy guests. So I
That
will
was
definitely
very
say
nice.
that.
That was very nice of you. I'm very hard on myself. I'm a green in communications, and I'm very analytical. And then I'm yellow too. That means I love everything to flow in harmony. And being a green means that I like to be prepared ahead, not because I cannot answer, but because I want to make sure that what I'm answering um, goes the way, I want it to go. But I could do it without, but I prefer always the questions, but that's okay. I mean, I think it went well. And I just, want to share my story, and the story of the
Gotcha.
love of the kitchen, the story of, because I love the kitchen. I love to cook. I love to bake. And my mom loved animals. That's why I've had this little girl sitting on my lap since we started, because she's very attached to me. And I have 7 animals, which
Okay.
yes, it was part of what how she was. We love animals. We love everything that breathes, and just like we care and we love about our neighbor. And I think that this world would be a much better place if we would just come to Christ and care for our neighbors, pray for their needs. Um, I definitely believe in that. And how have I done all these books? It's been God's help, and because I'm very determined, I'm very focused, um, I'm the kind that I don't stop. I'm always working. I'm always working on one thing and on the other, because I know what I want, and I don't have time to waste. And they took a lot of years of my life. So now I'm really wanting to fulfill
Right.
what was taken away. And it makes perfect sense.
Uh, abs- Absolutely. I mean, hey, Emily, I can't thank you enough. So I just have to say I really do appreciate it. We
Okay.
we should stay in touch because in the type of worlds that we are in, we're always circling around things. I
Mhm.
know that there are things that I do that could probably use a strong woman's voice, and I'm hoping that you're around things that, hey, maybe they a person like myself who talks to people about grief empowerment might be beneficial, and we can go from there. Just, just stay in the loop with each other to make sure. So if something does align properly, there's another speaking event, there's another event, another opportunity to be able to have that conversation. So
Okay.
thank
Well,
you
thank you
again.
so much. Thank you.
All
And I
right.
hope to get the video soon, and you take care of yourself.
I
Enjoy your
will.
time here at Dallas. I got to continue working here. I have a long day. But
Uh,
anyway, God
you
bless you and have a wonderful, and I hope your mother gets better. I still hope
Thank
and
you.
pray that she gets better because it's very difficult to lose a loved one. And I really have high hopes that God could, and He definitely He could heal your mother. I believe
Thank you.
in miracles because I don't want you to go through what I went through. It is very difficult. Um, but
Thank
I
you so
know, and
much.
another positive thing is that if God is that what He has in store, if that's what He wants, know that you will see your mom again. We will see our mothers because they are in God's presence. So we will see them. When God has that in store, we will see them again. So know that it's not over with. You will see your mama again. I understand you.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Well,
Thank you
you
so
take
much.
care.
I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right, bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Oh.